Let's get started. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to say ciao. We're into another webinar here, and this one's a little different as the Stratus Construction and Roofing Company goes through a series of different types of roofs. Today, we have Jerry Diamond on. He's going to be speaking about tile roof systems. I'm Peggy West. I am marketing my new website, FloridaCondoVendorsForYou.com. I just want to touch base on some housekeeping and we'll get into it. Before I introduce the sponsors, I want to mention that I do have a sponsor sheet that's going to go out today. It's going to be everyone's contact information and phone number, email, everything. So don't feel like you have to write all this down. Please, if you have a question, put it in the Q&A box. Our moderator today is Daniel Baum from COA Solutions, and he will be fielding the questions. And if you have a comment, just a comment, put it into the chat. Last couple webinars, I noticed a lot of the property managers were putting their CAM numbers in. You don't have to do that. When you registered, your CAM number was picked up, and we picked that up through the Zoom Datalytics at the end, so you don't have to do that. All right, let me introduce the sponsors for today, and I'm going to start with Vinteum Software. These are the people, the wind beneath my wings, helping me coordinate all this to get the emails out and set up everything. First, I want to introduce Katie Bassford. Katie is the United States National Representative. Tell us what you do, Katie, and what the company does.
Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction, Peggy. As Peggy mentioned, I am the National Sales Executive, so I work with clients all across the U.S. Here at Vinteum, we work with HOAs, condo associations, and property management companies to create community management software. So we have public-facing websites. We have ways for you to communicate with your residents through email, text, phone calling. We have ways for document storage. So lots of great features and really just looking to streamline all of your community association management tasks into one place. We are totally compliant with those new Florida laws regarding websites for community associations as well. So if you are concerned about compliance, I would love to chat. I would love to get a free demo set up and take the opportunity to go through the software and really personalize it for your association. So if that sounds of interest, please reach out. I would love to chat with you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I do want to make an honorable mention of a few people at Vinteum because without them also, we wouldn't have such a good presentation. I want to mention Hercules. He is the international and national sales manager and marketing manager. So he's running the crowd. And then we have also Beatrice. She is via Wave. She is very involved in running the webinars, along with another Julia Alves, who's not on today. But thank you so much for everything. Next, I want to introduce our moderator for today, Daniel Baum. He is the president and founder of COA Solutions of Florida. Daniel, tell us about yourself and what does your company do?
Thanks, Peggy. Good morning, everybody, or I should say good middle of the day. My name is Daniel Baum. As Peggy said, I am the president and founder of COA Solutions of Florida, and I specialize in helping you save money on your community's commercial property and casualty insurance. Very quickly, this year, we've seen a lot of reductions on the property side, a lot of new carriers in the market. You should be seeing a reduction on your commercial property rates, depending on who your carrier is and what kind of rate you had last year. We're seeing some increases in the directors and officers market. General liability, we've seen some up, some down. So the market is always moving. It's always a good idea to have to understand what the market is doing, especially since it's the biggest line item for our communities on their budgets. If you're not seeing a reduction or you'd like to find out what alternatives are out there, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. I hope you enjoy the webinar today, and thank you for your time.
Okay, great. Thank you, Daniel. I love how you do something different for the insurance market. Next, I want to introduce Jamie Gelfand. She is a regional director for First Citizens Bank. Jamie, tell us about yourself, and if you would, introduce your counterpart.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jamie Gelfand. I'm a regional sales officer with First Citizens Bank. First Citizens is a 125-year-old top 20 bank in the CAB Community Association Banking Division. We provide loans and lockbox for condominiums, HOAs, and co-ops. If you are looking to finance any upcoming projects, roofing, concrete restoration, painting, etc., myself and Deneen Barham, my counterpart on the west coast of Florida, would be able to assist. We'll put our information in the chat, and I hope you enjoyed today's class.
Awesome. Deneen, if you would you introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you. I think Jamie covered all of the bases. My name is Deneen Barham. I am the regional sales officer for the west coast of Florida. So if you're thinking map-wise, I am Pinellas County, all the way over through the I-4 corridor to the other coast. So I just split Florida in half. And again, as Jamie shared with you, First Citizens Community Association banking has been around for over 25 years. The bank, of course, is 120 years old, and we would love to help you with any of your financing needs of your capital improvements. Thank you.
Okay, great. You're not showing on video, but we know you're there. We hear you. Next, I want to introduce Faster.io. This is a new streaming company. They are state-of-the-art. Bob, tell us about yourself and Faster.io.
Oh, good afternoon, Peggy. Thanks all. Faster.io has been building, designing, and managing fiber optic infrastructures for over 20 years on an enterprise level. Now we bring it to the residential space, and we build an enterprise fiber optic infrastructure into your community, whether it's a condo or HOA. We provide up to gigabit speeds, symmetrical. Whatever you get up, you get down. In addition, the TV, our streaming product, it allows you to take it with you, change your address, zip code, and it'll follow you wherever you go, including residents that live outside the US. We provide a VPN, which allows people outside the US to use this, to take the product and use it with them. So if you're in a bulk contract now, or within 2 years or less, or you're thinking about going from retail to bulk, give me a call. Be more than happy to come over and let you know how we can do things and give you a proposal. Thanks, and enjoy the class.
Thanks, Bob. Also, honorable mention is his partner in crime is the marketing vice president, Michael Zirin. He's not on today, but they do a tremendous amount of marketing, and we'll get to your appointment immediately. Next, I want to introduce Ben Friedman, the president of City Quiet Windows and Doors, very predominant in our market over here in South Florida. And tell us about yourself and your company.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Peggy, thank you as always. The other vendor, sponsor, supporters for putting on this webinar. My name is Ben Friedman. I am the president and owner of City Quiet Windows and Doors. We provide turnkey white glove installation services for all window, storefront, door, and railing projects. Think of us as a resource. Don't hesitate to call, text, put something in the chat. Happy to help in any way we can, and I hope everybody has a good day and a great webinar.
Great. Thank you, Ben, so much. Next, I want to introduce Maddie Osman. She is in the Orlando area for Vice Painting, a very large company in that area, Central Florida. Maddie, tell us about yourself and what you do.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us today. So my name is Maddie, as she mentioned, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Business. I'm sorry? Can you guys hear me?
You were muted. Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Director of Marketing and Business Strategy for Vice Painting. So we are exterior repaint specialists for townhomes, condos, HOAs. That's pretty much all we do is commercial and services for associations. We also offer gutter cleaning, roof cleaning. We work a lot with Stratus, so we're thankful to be on this with them today. We also do sidewalk repairs. We do asphalt striping. So there's not a lot that we don't do. As Peggy mentioned, we service the Central Florida market, all of the greater Orlando area, and then along the coast, all the way from St. Augustine down to Melbourne. So if we can help you, if you're going to bid for any projects coming up, please let me know. I'd be happy to help. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for getting on today. It's been a while. Good to see you. Next, I want to introduce, I'm trying to pick the ones that are here and on the screen here. Oh, here we go. I have a new sponsor. I'd like to introduce Robbie Rapson. He is the president of Gold Coast Landscaping Services out of South Florida. Robbie, tell us about yourself, what you do and your company, and what's going on with you.
Sure. Thanks, Peggy. Hi, everyone. I'm Robbie Rapson, president of Gold Coast Landscape Services.
I think you're muted.
Oh, can you hear me?
You have to start over, Robbie.
Yeah, we hear you, Robbie.
Okay.
He wasn't muted.
Sure. So we've been maintaining commercial properties in Palm Beach County for nearly 40 years now. Our team handles everything from routine landscape maintenance to tree care, irrigation management, and also landscape enhancements. So we work really closely with property managers and boards to make landscaping kind of hassle-free. Our biggest thing is reliable crews and a proactive approach to landscaping. So thanks for having me on. This is my first event with you guys, and look forward to connecting with everyone later on.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Okay, awesome. Great. And welcome. Next, I want to introduce Daniel Pena from PD Concrete. If you'll come back on, Daniel. There you are. Introduce yourself and tell us what you do there.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Peggy. My name is Daniel, so I'm from PD Painting and Concrete Specialized. So our company has been in business over 20 years. We specialize in concrete restorations and waterproofing. So if you have any condo associations that they need to do any waterproofing or any certification, so please, get in touch with us. We're going to be more than happy to provide a bid for your condo. So I will leave all my info there in the chat box in case if someone wants to get in touch with our company. Thank you.
Okay, great. Daniel's the president. Now I'm going to run through the sponsors that are not on just to let you all know who will be on the sponsor sheet and their contact information, and you may need them. I'm going to start with Hafer Company. Nicole Johnson is a partner and also the director of operations. They do have 4 offices around the state. Excellent CPA service. They do audits and are easily available on the sponsor sheet. Next, I want to introduce Florida Paints. They're out of Central Florida. Heidi Larson is the vice president. She's on a trip today and she's in flight. So you will get her information as well. They are a manufacturer of paints and they work closely with Vice Painting and Stratus, I think. Next, I want to introduce Moshe Aronoff. Moshe is the owner and partner of Greener Path Retirement Planning. That's kind of speaks for itself. He'll be on the sponsor sheet. I also want to introduce Dawn Miller. She's with the Paving Ladies. She's the business development director. They cover primarily South Florida and Central Florida, and they've been in business for about 30 years now, collectively with the new owner. Lastly, I want to introduce Southwest Elevators. Brooke Cavender is the contact down here in South Florida. She's going to be on that sponsor sheet. But here's an elevator contact. If you need service or you need a new elevator bid, reach out to them. With that, I'm going to go on and turn this over back to Daniel Baum. Daniel's our moderator today, and let you introduce our speaker, Jerry, and then also start the class, Jerry.
All right. Well, thank you, Peggy, and thank you to all of our sponsors for today. I'd like to introduce everyone to Jerry Diamond. Jerry is the Director of Commercial and New Business Development for Stratus Roofing. He's been doing this for 28 years and has both been working on the construction side from a contractor standpoint, but also from the distributor side. So he sees it from both sides of the equation. We'll certainly get some good insight from Jerry today. He's originally from St. Louis and moved to Sarasota in 2003. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jerry. Just want to say two quick things. Just for everyone's benefit, we don't monitor the chat during our events. We monitor our question and answer box. So if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box. I'll be keeping an eye on that, and I'll interrupt Jerry from time to time to ask some of those questions. If you find that I haven't asked your question, don't be concerned. We will have a Q&A at the end as well. So Jerry, with that in mind, let me bring up the slides and away you go.
All right, Daniel, Peggy, and the rest of the team, thank you so much for having me. And thanks for everybody who's attended. My name is Jerry Diamond. I'm with Stratus Roofing. Stratus has been in business for a little over 30 years. They started off in flipping in properties. They figured out they couldn't get the type of service they wanted with everything they needed through the trade, so they decided to open up their own business. And the rest is history. So we're always proud to be part of Florida, and we're also licensed in multiple other states if you guys have anything that's outside of the Florida area. So with that said, we're setting up our presentation here. Today we're going to be talking about tile roofing systems.
Jerry, am I full screen?
So, yep, we can see the screen.
Am I full screen? Can you see everything?
You're full screen, but we're on the same portion we were on prior to the meeting, where you can see the left side.
Okay, let me see if I can just fix that real quick. If you want to begin, feel free to begin.
So team, while we're waiting for these little technical issues, we're going to be talking about tiles. So tiles, controversial in some senses and not in others. So, you know, I've been here since 2003, so I've experienced my fair share of hurricanes. You know, tiles come a long way. The installation process has become a lot better than it used to be back when Charlie hit in 2003 or 2005. You know, there weren't the same installation techniques as there are today. So things have definitely improved. However, once we start talking about the tile, there's real simple things to remember. Clay tile is made out of clay. It's a natural product. It has an absorption rate of double digits, or just under double digits, which is like 10%. When I talk about absorption rates, that means the amount of moisture that sinks through the tile just with normal rain. All the concrete tile has a much higher absorption rate because it's a porous product. So porous concrete tile, that's a shedding system, but it will rely on, those two systems will rely on the overall underlayment just to make sure the integrity of the roof is really good. And then the other tile roof we're going to be talking about is metal, stone-coated metal tile. There's a few manufacturers that make them. We have a great relationship with all of them, but we've had really, really good success with Unified Steel. Unified Steel is like an 8-layer metal zinc aluminum roof. So it's steel, zinc, aluminum, all in a compound, and it's baked in layers. And once we get through our screens, we'll be able to show you how that is. Now, the difference between the clay, the concrete, and then the metal tile roof is the metal roof doesn't have any absorption rate at all. That is considered a watertight system. So watertight meaning that you're not relying on the underlayment to be the whole purpose of the integrity of that roof. So depending on what your HOA or budgets go for, the longevity between some of those all depends on the application and what you guys have the budget for. Obviously, I think a lot of people since the last couple of hurricanes, we were talking about not, I think there's been humbugs going on about not having shingles as often as some of the other more resilient roofing systems that happen to stand up during the hurricane systems or during the hurricanes. So with shingles are a budget go-to everything. They're never ever going to leave, I think, the state of Florida. It's a budgetary item that just needs to be. If you have a clay tile roof, the clay tiles definitely crack more within wind. The concrete tiles will absorb, which we've already covered, and they also have a fragile cracking sector on them, especially if you walk on them. And then the metal tile roofs has their pros and cons. So the overall introduction, we're going to talk about, obviously we've already handled those three major ones: the energy efficiency, the installation process, maintenance and repair, which is something I think a lot of associations overlook, especially with concrete and clay tile systems, because they are so porous and they can not be as attractive to the eye simply because algae will sink into those pores. So I think a lot of your condo associations and HOA associations has to put through a budget for a soft wash so that it keeps that, sparkling clean looking. With the metal items, you don't necessarily have to maintain them at such a high rate as you would the other two. We're ready for the next slide, if we're in there, or if we got the slides situated.
How am I looking, Jerry?
We're not.
Okay, let
So
me
we
just,
need, yeah.
is
So
that playing?
no.
No. Okay. How about now?
Perfect. We're cooking with gas. Daniel, you rock.
Okay.
Good job, bud. Team, I appreciate everybody's patience. Thank you very much. There's always technical stuff. So this morning I woke up, I didn't have any internet access at all. So I'm using my wife's hotspot. I was like, of all days, I can't do this. So anyway, thank you for your patience. All right, we'll move to the next screen, Daniel. All right, we can move through this one. We covered the clay concrete
Okay.
and stone coated.
Can you see the types of tile roofing now?
Yep. So we'll stay on this one real quick, and then so the clay tiles, we already kind of gave you a quick synopsis while we're waiting for the PowerPoint. The clay tiles, it's a natural clay, often killed, fired for strength and color, extremely durable, fire resistance, and resist to fading. The concrete tiles, also listed as what I mentioned before, less expensive than clay. It's not as it's highly customizable, and it's pretty durable. And then obviously the stone coated, which we already covered. But the nice thing about the stone coated product here, again, you're looking at a watertight system. It's lightweight and it can withstand higher amounts of wind. Next slide, please. So this clay tile slide, this will basically just give you some rough dimensions. And Peggy, if I'm not mistaken, I think everybody should receive a copy of this, or can we arrange so that they can if they have any questions? So on the clay tiles, this is just going to give you dimensions. So the photo that you see there, that's called a cap and pan clay tile. That's a very rustic, old style, maybe something like you'd see in Brazil or somewhere over in Europe. Next slide, please. Concrete tiles. Concrete tiles can be installed in various different ways. On this slide, everyone, you're going to see all the components that list a concrete tile roof. So this is what's called a hip roof. Hip roofs are always preferred a little bit more in Florida because they get a lower insurance rate. But if you're stuck with something other than a hip, you just have to pay the price like everybody else does. This is Barcelona. So they have separate names for separate types of profiles. You can see there's an S, there's like a double S, there's a flat, then they also have textured, brushed. So you can get a lot of different varieties if you're looking for something that's just aesthetically pleasing and has to meet certain HOA requirements. Something to note, if you guys have had damage in the last couple of hurricanes and you've had a roof that is a tile roof or a clay roof, sometimes those roofs are not able to be repaired because they change the profiles and the color palettes of these tiles on a regular basis. You know, they may last, those profiles and color blends, depending on the popularity. It's like fashion. It changes every year. So depending on your roof, depending on how many tiles that you need replacement, the insurance company may not allow you just to repair because that product's not available either in color or profile. Next slide, please. Unified steel stone coated, which we talked about. I mentioned it was a layered process. So this is a lot more in depth with a little more technology that goes into the making of these products. They're all made practically the same, and this type of roof's been around. It started off in New Zealand and worked its way over here shortly after, especially during World War II. They use these a lot to, you know, make sure that everything was secured, and it was the last roof that they had to put on. So needless to say, it has a history. It's been around a really long time, just like all of the other products, but to me, it's a smart option if you have the capabilities of doing it. All right, next slide, please. So these are just some examples of how some stone coated is installed. You know what? It's an interlocking system. So it's also very lightweight. So these systems, this is a lightweight tile, and here's your concrete tile. So you can see the difference. A lot of difference in as far as the heaviness of it goes. With this product, you guys, with shingles, or excuse me, with tile, you always go by what's a per square piece or a per square installed. On concrete tile and clay, per pallet, when you're thinking about if you have a really tight area in your HOA or condo association, that if you have tight streets and you're doing a concrete tile roof, one pallet of concrete tile is 3.5 squares. So if you have an average roof is going to be, 12 pallets of tile sitting out there. If for that same size roof on the stone coated product, you're going to have about 15 squares per pallet. So you're looking at a quarter of the amount of real estate that takes up the streets for that particular project if you guys are dealing with a small area. So just some pros and cons on the difference between how they're packed, how they're installed, how they're loaded, and then the overall performance. Next slide, please. Durable and longevity. We've talked about this in a few more than a few instances. That they're all built to last. If you go over into Europe, you'll see slate, tile, not so many concrete, but those are century-old roofs that have been over in Europe. America likes to make money on their roofs, so much like our car parts and everything else. I don't think they last as long. I'm not saying it's on purpose, but maybe our weather is just a little more frightening and contentious than other countries. But everything's going to be built to last. You're looking at, on some of them to exceed or meet 150 mile an hour wind ratings. There's minimal maintenance. They're built to last. You guys have really good experience with both types of these. And then it's just a matter on weighing out the pros and the cons. There's not a one-stop shop for every system that you need. So, next slide, please. Energy and stability, sustainability. The energy savings and cost efficiency, and I'm gonna go back to the stone coated. Stone coated and concrete tiles, they can all be installed on battens. Actually, I believe clay tiles can also. So typically in Florida, if you have anything that's over a 612 pitch, which is the pitch of the roof, so that's a flat roof, 212, 312, 412, 512, and then it goes up. So anything that's at a steeper pitch, a 612 or higher, it has to be on a batten system. A batten system is when you put down lathing, they're batten strips that you nail to the deck, and then you nail the product on top of those battens. Battens do a couple things. They put less holes in the primary deck of the roof, and they also offer a dead air space for ventilation. That dead air space offers you a what you call an R factor. So it's an insulated value. So if you have something that sits on a 612 or higher, you can request, well, you can't request because it's code. If it is placed on battens, you do receive a little bit more insulation R value factors than you would if it's just direct to deck. All of these products have natural properties to them. So meaning if a roofer comes out and they bring you samples, the samples are always going to vary just a little bit. So take back to my distribution days. I'd take out a sample and we'd say, all right, we'd have the whole board decide on it. And we'd be like, all right, great. The product shows up and it's a shade or two different. It's just different. And the board kind of freaks out. They're like, this isn't what we ordered. This is what we signed for. So I always like to bring this up because it was an experience that I had to deal with. But just know, because they are natural, there are going to be slight shades in everything. It's not going to be drastic, but also keep in mind, you're looking at something that's going to be up on a roof. So a galloping horse really isn't going to notice that one little gray extra shadow marker or a granulated product that's in there that caught your eye when it was on the ground versus being on the roof. So just always remember, these are all natural products. They have natural granules, and it's not going to be always a perfect match like you would see something digital. Next slide, please. So you can kind of see, we just covered some of the battens. That'll show you what a batten system looks like. Now, this screen alone shows you what a loading guide is. So if you have a concrete or clay tile roof, that roof not only has to be ordered, then it has to be delivered. So what'll happen is it gets ordered through the manufacturer. The manufacturer will either drop it or it'll get ordered or shipped to a distributor. The distributor will then ground drop it. Then we have to have a loader load the process. Typically, distribution doesn't load it. So I'm going through these steps for everybody that's on this call, just so you know what the extra steps are. Anytime there are extra steps to installing or delivering any roofing products, there can be some issues where you're going to have things to look out for. I.e., when you load a roof, I'd say there's only maybe a dozen roof loaders in the west coast of Florida, for instance. Some of them have great equipment, some of them don't have good equipment. They could, those high lifts where they have to put the stuff up on the roof, sometimes the hydraulic lines break. Sometimes they don't maintain them the best and they leak. So if you have pavers, if you have concrete, if anything that you think might get damaged during that load when you guys are doing your RFP, always request that they put down plywood, because there's other trades that are involved that sometimes you can't control. So a couple little extra tips for you as far as that goes. Always remember with tile, you can see how far those are spread out, and they're spread out strategically so that there's not so much weight in one particular area that you won't have the worryment of a overloaded or collapse. Next slide, please. Maintenance and repairs. Maintenance and repairs, everybody focuses a lot on, hey, I got this type of roof, it's brand new, I got a 50-year warranty, and then you think you can just let it go. It's like a car, it's like yourself, you have to exercise, you have to eat right, you have to get your oil changed, every 10,000 miles, 5,000 miles, whatever, rotate your tires, etc. Same exact thing has to happen with maintenance and repairs on roofs. Venting. Now, I know venting was back in one of the previous screens, but venting is really, really important to pay attention to. Excuse me. If your roof is not vented properly, it can literally bake from the inside out. So venting is paramount, that you have to keep track of that. Make sure your caulk is in good condition around all penetrations. All free of debris, needles, anything that should be sitting, nothing should be ever sitting on your roof or in your gutters. It decays and then it slowly eats everything away. They always recommend to do a soft rinse on just about every type of roof out there. Some are more susceptible than others, like the concrete, which I discussed, is a lot more porous than clay, and then you don't have to worry about any porous type products. The soft wash in order to wash off any of the algae. The next one would be a lot of breakdown. A lot of failure comes to under the repairs. You have to make sure that the mudding of all the hips and ridges are in good condition. And I don't know if I have, we'll have to maybe get another slide, and if I can see it. But the mudding is, if there's a cap that goes on the hip and ridge, they take concrete and they put it all along the side. So that hip and ridge is located where they can screw that into to a 2x4, and then at the bottom of it, then they take oxide and they color the concrete and it matches the roof, but then they mud that whole side. What happens over time? UV rays, rain, wind, water, erosion happens, and if that mud, it acts as, it looks like a aesthetic of the property, but it also acts as a functionality of holding that hip and ridge in place. So when you see that start to break down, it gets dried, it needs to be, just touched up. Once that's touched up, then you're in good shape. If you have a hurricane that's coming and you've got those mud laps that are where you can see they're kind of chipped or they're cracked, man, the wind gets under those, and man, you've got an airborne missile. And that's where a lot of damage is on these large multifamily projects, and even neighborhoods, since they build these houses so close together. Those are airborne missiles, and they cause damage. All right, next slide, please. All right, nope, you can go back. Thank you.
Yep.
Bird stop. So bird stop is a section on a concrete roof, whether it's clay or concrete. So bird stop always is basically like a starter course for the tile. I was recently on a project looking, and I'm not going to say any names, but I was on a project looking in St. Pete, and they just put on this, man, gorgeous clay tile roof. But what they opted to do was they opted not to use bird stop, but they opted to use mud all along that front side. And then what they opted to do was take a stick and then they put a little weep hole, a drain in that. What happens was that with that, if and this is where the devil's in the details on the installation of these roofs. So my first thought is when I saw that roof and I was looking at it, and these poor people just put this on. So I mean, this was just a portico in front of this massive project. So when you see that hole, there's a dead spot under that hole, and that water slides down, and it actually just sits there because it's not flush, and it can't weep out of the hole. So it'll back up all along the eave, and that's what rots the eave on these projects. When you see a lot of eave rot, that means that water is absorbing, and then it's sitting behind the weep holes of the bird stop. So everybody wonders why, when you're getting a new roof, a lot of times as a contractor, we don't know what's under a roof. So we're going to be like, I'm going to include, just from walking it, you can feel if it's spongy or not. So you can say, hey, out of a courtesy, I can already feel like there's 5 sheets of plywood they're going to be needed on this roof. It may need more because there's unforeseen. But a lot of times contractors will say, I'll give you 5 sheets. If you need any additional sheets, it'll be the plywood and installation. That could be anywhere from $75 to $125 a sheet for the product and install. But that's stuff that you want to be aware of. A lot of people are asking, it's like, well, how do we know all this plywood? And we signed the contract for X amount, but then we have this. There's always going to be that caveat. It's the hidden damage that's under a roof that you have to worry about what's there. And per code, you can't install anything on a new roof unless the substrate is in good condition. Then we'll double check all the fasteners. Make sure that the fasteners are secured. They're not backing out. Backed out fasteners can happen on any style roof. I don't care which type of roof it is. It's just expansion and contraction of decks. It just slowly backs everything out. So it's really important to make sure that you have somebody coming out and checking this. If it's a maintenance guy, that's fine. Or if you just had a roof put on and you have a maintenance program that you sign on with the contractor, it's their responsibility to come out a couple times a year and make sure that everything is okay. You can have a pre-hurricane inspection. You can have a post-hurricane inspection too. Before and after photos, you should always be able to see, or videos. Water. Water is evil to all roofs. So you just have to make sure it has the proper channels to get out of the roof without penetrating into the structure. So water will always find the least path of resistance. So, sometimes it's it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, but you find water with water. And that's typically how we have to go about doing it if there's a leak that we have to get up there and find. So, all right, next step or slide, please. Alrighty, so this is this should be our latest wind. It hasn't been upgraded again yet for any upcoming seasons. I think this is the latest one. Yes, it is. This is where everything lies. So your warranty, the type of roof, the whatever wind rating you're in, that's gonna drive the choice of how you guys want to spend your money on what type of material and installation on a roof. Pardon me. So this is just self-explanatory. It tells you where you need to be. You know, if you're close to water, you have to make sure to get a product that has either some saltwater warranties or doesn't have any saltwater exclusions. Every roof that you talk to a roofer about can be specifically installed to a higher wind rating than what is being told by the county. Now, when I say that, that's specifically on if you're on one of these barrier islands or you're super close in a high wind area that's popular of getting hit by hurricanes. Let's use the Unified Steel as an example. I can say, listen, I've got this association, they're on a barrier island. This is what that happened during Milton. And we're really going to need to beef this up. What they'll do, and just about every manufacturer will do this, but I've had really good luck with Unified Steel, is they specifically engineer that roof to be installed for that type of wind rating and wind uplift. So with that being said, they put more fasteners in some of the key areas along the perimeters. They engineer a different system to be done. They might upgrade you to stainless steel screws. They might use an adhesive property and stainless steel screws at the same time. So make sure whoever you're getting your roof proposal from, you ask specifically what can be engineered for their specific location. And that can be done for you. Next slide, please. All right. I think that's it. And that looks like a fine concrete tile roof there.
Thank you, Jerry. That was extremely informative. I don't have any questions in the Q&A at this moment. I just want to give a couple of seconds. If anyone has any questions they want to ask Jerry, now would be a great time to drop your question into the Q&A. We'll just give everyone a minute or two to see if there's any questions. I'm going to back out the...
Come on, somebody has to have a question. Hit me up. Try to stump me.
Daniel, you're muted.
Hi, Dan. You muted.
Also, if I could interject, if anybody has a project that they're looking for some pricing on, Jerry and his team can. I'm sorry, was I talking over someone?
No, you're fine, Peg. You're fine. I just, we had a question pop up.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, so the question is, Jerry, solar panels. How do you feel about solar panels on the clay roofs, on the tile roofs, and how would you deal with them when it comes to, replacement?
Solar panel on tile, it can definitely be done. It's honestly the hardest part about solar panels. It almost seems like no matter how well you bolt those on and what type of solar panels it are, you already mentioned it's going to be for a concrete or tile roof. Those just always have to sit up higher. They catch wind. I mean, it can be done, but it's always risky. Now, they do make a solar product for shingle roofs that's almost embedded into, it's not embedded, but it lays very flat, very low profile, and it almost just looks like they've got a piece of saran wrap on the roof, so it's really, really low profile. I mean, Tesla does make a solar powered roof where every single panel is its own solenoid to harness energy from the sun. But for the panels on concrete or clay, it's always rough.
Have you seen, Jerry, just on that note, have you seen any of the Tesla product installed here in Florida? I haven't yet come across it.
Yeah, we've seen we've seen a handful of them. I've been up against them for a couple bids, and they are not cheap at all.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to work for an association. If it does, I'm going to move in there too. maybe over in Dubai they might do it. But yeah, overall I'm impressed. I like the Tesla product. I think it's good, and it's an option.
Okay. We have some questions about metal roofs over here. So one person's asking, what's the difference specifically between metal and aluminum? And would you consider one better than another?
All right. So metal roofs, you have a variety of profiles that you can pick from a metal roof. I always think of a non-exposed fastener. That means it's called a 5E roof, but you can see exposed fasteners on the roof, or we call them here in Florida the Key West style roofs. If you're going to have a roof, I think a mechanically attached standing seam, a little bit thicker of a gauge metal roof for any of these buildings of people that are on there today is a superior roof. And we're seeing more and more metal infiltrate Florida, especially after these last two big hits on the West Coast, than almost any other product out there. Whether it's an architectural metal that's shaped like tile, slate, or shingle, or if it's the flat run standing seam 5E or PBR metal.
Someone said, would you, in dealing with these metal roofs, does that tend to reduce the need for algae cleaning?
Well, it depends on your surroundings. So if you're in a neighborhood and you have a ton of trees and you're surrounded, it's not getting a lot of sunlight to burn the stuff off, or a lot of shade area, you would always have to still do a soft wash with that. It's not a porous product, so it's not going to just the dirt from the air is just not going to land on it and then grow or stick. And after almost every rain, it almost looks like you have a new roof if you're out in the open and with no trees.
Interesting. A question of OSHA came up. We have a guest who has seen that, and on roofers, you tend to see them walking around on roofs without any harnesses or any safety mechanisms in place. Are there OSHA rules for installing roofs here in Florida?
Yes, 100%. And whoever asked that, thank you so much. At Stratus, we really pride ourselves. We're OSHA certified, and we handle everything to the highest standards. So just to give you some examples, when you're installing a roof, no matter what, it could be a flat roof, it could be a pitched roof, installers are always supposed to have a fall protection system. It can be a restraint system, you could be on lanyards, it could be, there's different methods. If it's a flat roof, you could have spotters, cones, spotters, caution tapes. There's all type of things that you need, and I could go on and on and on with the list. But hopefully to answer your question quickly and efficiently, yes, there are OSHA rules. Yes, you have to be tied off if you're an installer, no matter what the pitch. And yes, Stratus Construction and Roofing abides by all of those.
Okay, Peggy, did you have a question?
I just wanted to comment on that, is that maybe that'd be a great slide, because
Okay.
What about the cars, parking, getting prepared for a roof installation, notices go out. That's a great thing about Vinteum's product also, is the software. They can notify the whole community that, next week it's happening 3 days ahead of time, and then the day of, hey, today's the day, move your car, blah, blah, blah. The other thing is, are the metal roofs less expensive?
No. And right now, as you know, and we're dealing with some shipping issues, tariff issues on certain products. Some metal is produced here. We don't have a lot of aluminum. I know somebody was asking about aluminum roofs in that last question. Aluminum is really, really expensive. It's even more expensive now. But I would say if you had to compare a metal roof to, let's say, a concrete tile roof, I think you're looking at about a 30% upcharge. That's on a basic roof that's not super cut up. It's not 7 stories in the air. That's just a normal roof, easy to walk. You're looking at about 30% more. The more, when I say cut up, the more dormers, the more hip and ridges that you have on certain style roofs, that's a lot more labor and it's a lot more cutting to make that all go the way it's supposed to be. And that's why on it, we call a cut up roof, it'll be a higher price than just a normal type roof.
All right, Jerry, I have for concrete tile roofs, based on your experience.
Does that also mean that
Peggy, did you follow up?
Yeah, Peggy, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just following up and asking, does that mean that the metal roof lasts longer than the tile?
Yes.
Yeah.
How
Well, I
much
can tell you
longer?
from an insurance standpoint, it's certainly you have a longer life on a metal roof than you do on a tile roof. Jerry, some more questions coming in here. Concrete tile roofs, based on your experience, do mechanically fastened, quote, screw-on tiles perform better than foam and or mortar installation following for Florida hurricanes?
Typically, I think in the new Florida tile installation manual, depending on where the wind rating is, a lot of contractors are doing all 3 of those methods in one system. So if let's just use an example, like to be redundant, I brought up if you're on a coastal community, they can be, if they're on a batten system, they're screwed in. And then it can be screwed in if it needs to be upgraded with a stainless steel screw. The hip and ridge can be adhered with a patty. I think the patty, if I remember the specs, the patty needs to be about a softball size under each hip and ridge. And then those are also then screwed into the riser metal. So a lot of roofers nowadays, especially if it's anywhere near, a lot of them will use all 3 of those in a certain install in case. But if you just, these topics on the install and Peggy, you mentioned about the OSHA stuff. That's all stuff that can be brought up to cover in an RFP. And we do an RFP promo also, our seminar, but that's when you're going to start talking about everything that you want, your HOA wants specifically. If you want notices going out the day before to all your residents, no parking signs, we have to get there 24 hours before and then rope off certain sections. If you've got handicap areas, if you have older people in a certain area, that's all stuff that we mention and discuss in your RFP.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like those are the questions you should be asking besides just what's the cost of the roof.
100%, 100%.
It's some of these ancillary items that people may not be thinking about that could be even more important as time goes on.
Yeah, excellent points, Daniel. So those are, it's not always a matter. I know everybody's conditioned to get 3 bids. We highly recommend it. Always get those. Here at Stratus, we like to make sure at Stratus that we cloak ourselves in education. So within that education, whether you pick us or not, it's not that big of a deal. But a lot of people come back to us because we teach them through the education process. They'll watch our RFP, our RFQ seminars, and then we'll help them put all that together. And that really highlights everything for them. And it will give a much smoother operation than if you just get 3 quotes, you throw it against the wall and it's fine. And then it's the cheapest price. Cheapest definitely doesn't always mean better.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm going to combo 2 questions together here. So one of our guests asked, what is the best type of roof for a building that might be closest to water? And I'm going to combo that with, beyond the beauty of the appearance of tile roofs, would you say there are more significant benefits as well with a tile roof in terms of a building that might be closer to water?
Concrete tile roof closer to water or not close to water. I mean, to me, it just all depends on what the overall structure of the building is. If it's already concrete tile when it was bought, it's already pre-engineered to put a concrete tile roof on it. If you have a shingle roof or a metal roof and you're wanting a concrete tile roof, you can't put on a concrete tile roof because the trusses aren't engineered for the weight. Now, if you're close to water, it's not so much the concrete tile that's affected by the water. It's not going to have the salt spray that's going to affect it, but it will affect if you don't have stainless steel fasteners, if you don't have aluminum goosenecks, ventilation pipes, aluminum drip edge. Some of the other ancillary items can be eaten up through by the saltwater spray.
Yeah. So just out of curiosity, what would you say is the distance to water that those structures need to be conscientious of that, as opposed to if you're this distance or further, it's less of an issue?
Every manufacturer has different distances. And it all depends on your location on the wind map and how you're geographically located in Florida. So, I mean, that's pretty much as simple as it gets. Let's use Westlake, for instance. I want to say that if you're within 1,300 feet of saltwater spray, they have saltwater exclusions. Some people are if you're within 300 feet of saltwater spray. It just all depends on what the specifications per manufacturer.
Okay. Peggy, did you have a follow-up? I see your hand up.
Peggy?
Well, I had it. I know. Let's see.
All right. While you're thinking of that,
I'm sorry.
While you're thinking of that, Jerry, a couple last questions here. White roofing seems to be better for reflectivity, but rarely used just because it might look dirty. Will metal tiles change that perception and aren't noisy like many believe? So I guess the question is a combo. They're asking about the color of the tile being white for the reflection of the sun's rays, but people don't like them because they tend to look dirty a lot. And do you think that's an issue that might be changed? And also, do you think that metal tiles might change that I think the perception is that there's a lot of noise that comes from rainstorms that hit the metal. So those are the sort of two-part question being asked.
Okay. All right. So any light colored roof in Florida or any high UV area like Florida, California, Texas, etc. If it's the lighter the color, the more Energy Star, well, two things. The lighter the color, the less heat that will be absorbed in that product. Every manufacturer out there makes a specific Energy Star rated product. Some of them are white, some of them are silver, some of them are pastel. It just all depends on the product. So if they want a roof that has an Energy Star rating, or their insurance company is going to say, hey, if you have something that's installed that has an Energy Star rating, then we can potentially give you a discount. But with light colored roofs, the caveat is you have to give that trade-off sometimes, depending on where your project's located. If you're covered by trees and shade or close to an airport, projects that are close to airports get a lot of jet fuel spray off. Those just always get dirty no matter what the color is. So it's just a matter on whatever the preference is. If your maintenance budget for cleaning roofs is low, I wouldn't go with a white roof. You go with something darker that you don't have to clean as often. And what was the second part of that?
The second part was just about the noise level that you get on metal.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a perception that they're noisier because when the rain hits it, you're going to have more noise inside the house or inside the building.
There is, and that is a perception. Now, keep in mind, if you're getting, we don't have to worry about hail here, so it's not that big of a deal. But there is, I mentioned how roofs are installed. If they're installed direct to deck, or if they're installed on a batten system. A batten system on a metal roof always works great for two reasons, because it gives you the dead air space, so you have an R value within that, and within that dead air space, that'll also help you with any noise, because that dead air space is a deadening for sound travel. Metal roofs really aren't, I think, unless you're like on an old farmhouse and you don't have solid decking or, it's not, it's a fallacy. It doesn't have the mind-bending noise during a rainstorm that people think that it would.
Gotcha. Well, so as a follow-up to that, someone asked, because you were talking about maybe changing the types of roofing that you might have. A question came up was, could you install a metal roof where a shingle roof had been prior, or do you still have those same truss issues?
No, you don't have the trust issues, but depending on the municipality. So every municipality has different code requirements. Typical municipalities, and no matter what, just always remember, you have to check what your particular municipality code is. Let's use Sarasota County, where I live, for instance. In Sarasota County, if it's a 1-layer shingle roof and a 3-tab roof, meaning it's not architectural, it doesn't have the extra layers on it, you can do a metal roof over on top of batten strips. Now, if it has more than 1 layer and it's not a flat 3-tab roof, you cannot do a layover. If it has more than 2 layers, the whole roof has to come off and you have to do it. If it's an architectural shingle, which is more wavy and not flat, then you cannot put metal over that. If it's a 3-tab, you can put it over.
And this is all obviously to be taken into consideration for high wind speeds and whether or not that roof will sustain or be able to stay attached if you had, hurricane speed winds.
100%. So keep in mind, I'm not sure what other companies do, but I know at Stratus Construction and Roofing, we have, and in Florida all together, whether you have a great contractor or a mediocre contractor, we go above and beyond. We have third-party people that go out and make sure that it all checks out. Without a company that does that on their own expense for you guys, you naturally already have a safety net built in because you have an inspection process. You have a before, during, and final inspection. So they'll look over all of that. And part of that inspection is to make sure that your wind mitigation is done. And wind mitigation is when you have to make sure that your trusses are strapped properly and the deck is nailed properly. That's why they have an in-progress inspection. So during those processes, that's when that inspection process makes sure that you're getting the roof installed to code to what you paid for.
Yeah, absolutely. And those wind mitigation reports are, I know from an insurance standpoint, are some of the most important documents you have. So
100%.
And I tell clients all the time, whoever's putting on your new roof, ask them if they're going to provide you with wind mitigation reports or if you have to come in and get them on your own later, because you're definitely going to need those documents if you hope to not only not get dropped by carriers, but if you're looking for any kind of savings on your insurance.
Yep, great point.
Jason, you asked a question. I don't think that's what Jerry said. So Jason said, so are you saying hailstorms in Florida do not damage clay tile roofs or shingles? Jason, I don't think that's what Jerry was saying. I think he was just talking about the metal roofs and the noise that came in. I think we'd all agree that it can damage any kind of roof.
Yeah, and keep in mind, hailstorms, coming from St. Louis, as mentioned in my intro bio, that's Tornado Alley. So we're used to hail. I mean, hail kills cattle up there. I mean, it's like watermelons. Down here in Florida, we seldom get hail at all. So, and I apologize if I misled anybody's, but in Florida, especially South Florida, hail is not a popular item. It may have pea-like size, but if you do get hail damage on some type of a metal roof, if it's just one of the flat standing seams, think of it like your car. Think of it like your mailbox. It's going to get damaged and it's going to look like cellulite on your hood. So that's what you're going to have to deal with.
Someone asked a question. I don't know that this is realistic to answer, Jerry, but I'll put it out there. That last slide we were looking at that had a thank you on it, and it was a clubhouse. They asked if you could give a ballpark of what the cost of that tile roof would be. I think it's probably hard to do, but I figured I'd send it to you anyway.
Well, if they want, please have them send it to me via email at jerry.diamond@stratusroofing.com. And then I will see if I can pull our records and get you an estimate of what it costs at that time. And then we can kind of go from there.
All right, Ken. So if you heard Jerry, you'll see his contact information is probably here in the chat. You can also find it, well, when Peggy sends out the sponsor information, you'll have it. Feel free to send him a note and he'll give you an estimate. And then Jacqueline, as far as how often should a wind mitigation report be completed, you certainly want a new wind mitigation report whenever you replace a roof, because one of the key components is that it says the roof age. That's one of the major components of a wind mitigation report. I would say wind mitigation reports are certainly good for at least 5 years, usually even longer, depending on the circumstance of who you're giving them to. But the key for a wind mitigation report is that the roof to wall connection is not going to change from the change in the wind mitigation report unless you made changes to your roof structure. So it doesn't really change very much. It's not like a appraisal that you have to get done every 3 years because the value is going to change. Jerry, you have anything to add to that?
You know what? I know we're running a little bit over, but just everybody remember, it's a volatile times in the marketplace out there. There's already been a price increase from distribution that I've been receiving. You know, a significant increase that's coming on starting as early as April 1st. So if you guys have stuff that you either need quoted or you have stuff that you're on the fence about, make sure that you secure your contracts. There's going to be escalation clauses in all of these contracts that aren't going to be avoidable. So just really keep that in mind, please.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. You know, with the tariffs coming into play, that usually we don't think about things like that. We just think about what are the regular costs of things. Let me look at one cost for another. And, you know, inflation has obviously been a problem for all of us lately, but the tariffs add a whole nother level. So definitely something to consider if you have to do a roofing project, you might want to do it sooner than later for that reason alone.
Well, and sooner than later, just in Florida, because it's coming up on rainy season.
Yeah.
So if you have a commercial flat roof, you really need to try to hop on this and get this taken care of before full-blown rainy season comes in.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna stop us there. Jerry, thank you very much. That was extremely informative. We really appreciate you giving us that insight into the tile roof. Thank you everyone for coming. I'm just gonna give the last word to Peggy.
Yeah, so very interesting, Jerry. That was a lot to be aware of. Yeah, I've heard the tariffs going between 15 and 25% on metal products effective April 1st. So that's something everybody needs to think about. I just had a comment too that I recommend, after working for a consultant a few years back, a roofing consultant, that you have your annual inspections. 1 year to the next can create such differences in just maybe repairing before it becomes a full-flown, you know, thing that you have to get your roof done. The last thing that I had my hand up before came to me was be sure and have your contracts reviewed by your attorney. You know, there's different clauses. Last year we had all these different law changes and so on. So just get them reviewed. And I'm sure it's not going to be a great expense to review a contract. But I do want to say thank you, Jerry, myself, Daniel. Great job again fielding the questions. You guys work good together. So also I want to say thank you to my sponsors, everyone else that's on now and who invites you people to come to these webinars. I also want to say thank you to the board of directors for getting on and really doing your due diligence. And even though you're a shareholder, it's also great that your community has you in place because you're doing a great job just by attending. CAMS, can't thank you enough for guiding the boards and your residences there. And then I want to close by talking about a couple of the webinars that are coming up. April is getting pretty full here. April 1st, right off the bat, I have Dahlia Anise, attorney, coming back to speak about wills and trusts and incapacity planning. Very interesting. If you haven't heard it lately, you might want to see what those laws are all about. And she's going to talk about that. I have an HR credit coming up for all you CAMs out there. It's hard to find the HR credits. This is going to be on April the 9th. It's going to be a general conversation on time management as related to property management. On April 23rd, it's kind of not in stone, but Stratus will come back with their next webinar for the month of April. And April 28th, we're targeting Vinteum Software to come back and talk about another facet of their products. And then on April 30th, someone asked last month for mold and remediation class. I've got Unlimited Restoration Incorporated coming, URI, and that's going to be very interesting. I also have some things coming up in May that I'll tell you about in April, but transparency, I have HOA board certification class coming up. That's an 8-hour class, so we'll be separating that up in a couple different segments for you. I'm going to start the Spanish series. All these classes available in Spanish, give or take. I say all of them, but most of them. And that's going to hopefully start June 1st. The last thing is I do have J.R. Fraser coming in, and they're going to give a nice layman type term presentation on Sears. So thank you everybody for your constant support, webinars, and the sponsors as well, speakers, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again.